sister stole my credit card, racked up $700 in charges, and now I'm deciding whether to confess or just pay off the debt. My little sister has always had a thing for keeping up with her friends. She's obsessed with having all the cool stuff the other girls do, idolizes beauty bloggers and YouTubers, and basically wants everything to show off. Our parents are extremely wealthy, but they are also really strict. Growing up, they'd only reward us with stuff if we did well academically. That meant when my sister pulled C's this year and asked for an iPhone, there was no way she was getting it. She got refused on the spot. Early this year, around September or October, I started noticing that a lot of my makeup and even my shoes were going missing. We have the same shoe size, so that already made things suspicious, and the makeup vanishing wasn't just any makeup, it was all the popular, cult classic stuff that she's probably seen online. I decided to set up a camera in my room, and one night while I was at work, I caught her red-handed. There she was, going through my drawers and sitting at my vanity, experimenting with all my stuff. Honestly, I didn't even get that mad about it. She's 12, curious about makeup, and clearly wants to fit in. So to solve the problem, I desashed my collection, got rid of things I barely used and handed them down to her. For her birthday, my other sister who doesn't live at home and I pooled our money and got her a Sephora gift card, thinking maybe this would put an end to the thefts for good. For a while, it seemed like it worked. My stuff stopped disappearing. I'd even kept the camera up and checked for a month. She only came into my room when she needed to fetch the dog. Nothing suspicious happened. But then I noticed she started getting more packages in the mail. Amazon boxes stacked up, and she got new Sims games and even had her own Netflix account. She claimed she was winning all these things. I pressed her for details, but she dodged my questions, and eventually I let it go. I figured maybe she'd gotten lucky, or there was some explanation I wasn't seeing. Then, about 2 weeks ago, disaster hit. Everything on our desktop computer vanished. Mom and I investigated, and according to the system recovery files, the computer had a file reset at 11:30 a.m. on a Thursday. We only discovered the wipe that night. I'd seen my sister using the computer that morning before I left for work, so we put 2 and 2 together. She must have done something. Still, she refused to admit anything. No matter how we questioned her, she kept quiet. Then today, I got my MasterCard bill, and my jaw nearly hit the floor. The amount was way higher than it should have been. Absurd, really. Normally, my charges are pretty predictable, $78 for a yoga pass, $10 for something on eBay. But every charge on the bill lined up exactly with the stuff my sister had gotten. Origin Canada. Netflix. Multiple Amazon purchases. One from eBay. All online, all adding up to around $700. At first, I thought maybe my card info had been stolen. It had to be, right? But when I pieced together the purchases, it all pointed right back to my 12-year-old sister. Now, I have no idea what the hell to do. My parents are strict as anything, and if I tell them, they are going to lose their minds on her. But at the same time, I'm starting to worry there's something much deeper going on, like, she has a genuine problem. I can't technically pay off the card, I have the money. But I don't want to just let it go. I want my money back. But how am I supposed to get refunded for something like Netflix? I can't. Some of the packages, being from the marketplace, had prices on them for customs, and those prices matched exactly to the ones on my statement. But my dad also has a key, so he probably picked up a few packages I didn't see, explaining why the total charges were even bigger than I realized. I brought up a Netflix charge, and she lied, trying to tell me she was using our other sister's Netflix. Now, that sister lives about 2 hours behind us, so I texted her right then and there. She told me she doesn't even have Netflix anymore, it interferes too much with her doctorate work. Still, my younger sister wouldn't admit anything. I told her this was her one chance to come clean, otherwise I'd be talking to our parents and even the police. She still refused. It got to the point where I even started to doubt myself, maybe she didn't do it. I examined all the charges and realized she would have needed her own Amazon account to do any of this. Years ago, I was the one who'd set up her email address, and my email was the recovery option. I reset her password using my email and logged in. Not only had she racked up $700 in charges just in this billing cycle, but that same day she'd bought 2 more things on Amazon, purchased something on iTunes, got a receipt from the same resource, and even signed up for a Club Penguin membership. And there were still all the old order receipts sitting in her inbox. I reset her Amazon password and canceled those pending orders. Then, I emailed Club Penguin and Netflix to let them know she was a minor and not authorized to buy memberships. Club Penguin was wonderful and reversed the charges right away. I guess they handle things like this often. Netflix hasn't responded yet. This morning, I sat down with my parents and showed them everything. They just offered to pay the whole thing back for me, but I told them that wasn't the point. I wanted my sister to learn from this. They just brushed it off. I warned them that if they kept ignoring things like this, I'd stop picking up their slack and completely disengage from my sister's life. I told them that if they didn't act, my grad school applications were immediately going out of province. That got their attention, since my older sister had already moved away thanks to their crazy behavior, and it clearly bothered them. So, they finally agreed to talk to my sister. I had to go walk the dog, so I missed what was actually said. When I got back, it seemed like nothing had changed. My sister was still holed up in her room, acting like everything was fine, totally unconcerned. My dad just transferred the money into my bank account, which tells me they still don't give a damn about the bigger picture. I haven't paid the card off yet. It's not due until August 27, so I have some time. I talked to my boyfriend about everything, and he's reaching out to his friends on the police force and some paramedics he knows who are connected with the DARE officers, trying to coordinate a potential police visit with my older sister's upcoming trip next Tuesday. We're hoping that might finally get through to everyone. This saga is far from over. Something needs to change, and if my parents won't do it, I will. Update 2. My sister and I are going to sit down with our parents and talk about finding her a volunteer placement. My older sister suggested that what she really needs is some perspective. She needs to understand that not owning the game is not the end of the world. Maybe facing some tough, real-world scenarios is the only way to get that message across. I called one of our cousins, someone my younger sister really looks up to, and she's agreed to come talk to her too when the police arrive. It's kind of turning into an intervention. The officer and I spoke on the phone just a few minutes ago, and he said this isn't the first time he's dealt with something like this. He's got a lot of things he can say to her, and I trust he'll handle it well. He told me that he often refers kids like her to a counselor, and if my sister is open to it, he can refer us as well. Honestly, everyone has been really helpful through this. I've decided not to press charges, at least, not yet. I know a lot of people would come down hard on my sister, and I won't deny that she deserves it. I might even show her some of the things people are saying, because maybe she needs to see the reality of what she's done. But she's still my sister. She's 12. My older sister and I basically raised her, and I can't bring myself to push for a criminal record, not while there's still time to pull her back from the edge. She deserves consequences, yes, but she also deserves a fighting chance. This could ruin her, or it could put her on a better path. If I don't try to help her, knowing that our parents won't, I'd never forgive myself if she went down the wrong path. Maybe it isn't just her that's the problem, maybe it's our whole house. Our parents are completely messed up, and I know I can't change them. But if I can get my sister out, give her a chance at something better, I'll do whatever I can. If she refuses and nothing changes, then I know the best thing for me will be to leave and try for a life of my own. But I have to try, for both our sakes. Update 3. I really don't want the cops to talk to my parents. My dad is such a conspiracy theorist. There was a whole year where he refused to buy milk because he claimed farmers were drugging it to weaken our bones and make us dependent on the calcium-fortified, more expensive versions. Yeah, that's the sort of thing I've grown up with. I'm not out here to save the world or anything, I'm actually going into physiotherapy. This past weekend, I just ignored my sister and family as much as I could, burying myself in work and staying at my boyfriend's place for most of the time. But yesterday, I got up around 8 to pick up my sister and brother-in-law. As soon as we were in the car, the conversation turned straight to the situation at home. My Bill is actually a neuropsychologist, but he claims he doesn't remember much about child development, though he did offer some viewpoints similar to what I've heard before. The consensus was clear: we needed to get away from our parents, but only if my little sister would cooperate. That was the non-negotiable part. My older sister mentioned that when our youngest sister turns 14, we could start applying for guardianship and move her and me to my sister's province. Considering our parents' age and history of abuse, my sister believes we might have a strong case. She's already consulted a lawyer about it. We had a really emotional discussion. My older sister admitted that all she ever wanted was to get both of us out of that house. She would have done it earlier if she'd realized how bad things were. I'd kept a lot from her, especially about my younger sister's attitude issues and our parents' detachment. Because my older sister has enough on her plate with grad school and work, I didn't want to add to her stress. She told me the hardest thing she's ever done was leaving me and our little sister in that house. But she was just 21 at the time, hadn't met her husband yet, and barely had any money. We both knew it would have been impossible back then. When we finally got to the house, my Bill and sister said a quick hi to little sis, before heading off to play with my dog for a bit. Not long after, my cousin called the house phone, and we let little sister answer. My cousin announced she was coming over with her dog for a playdate, which worked perfectly. It finally got my sister out of her room. My cousin only lives about 15 minutes away, so she was there soon. We put the dogs outside and watched them play together, but before long, the doorbell rang. I sent my little sister to open it, and the moment she saw a police officer at the door, she burst into tears. The cop was nothing but kind. He calmly sat us all down and explained right away that he wasn't there to get her in trouble, he just wanted to talk. He even brought a poster board with him. He started telling us stories about girls he'd known who'd gotten tangled in this kind of trouble. The stories were heavy, and surprisingly like some of the ones I'd heard before. There was one girl who got busted in a drug deal just a few years ago, and he talked about the girl in Medicine Hat who'd killed her family, and a couple of girls they'd saved from prostitution rings. My cousin talked to my sister about how tough it had been watching my older sister and me grow up, but how hard we'd fought to create a better life for her. She reassured my little sister that she's not a bad person even if she might feel that way because of how angry I'd been, but the lying has to stop. She reminded her that kids who grow up lying turn into adults who do the same, and adults who live like that don't have good lives. I talked to my little sister about all those videos she watches, all the celebrities she wants to be like. They work really hard for what they have. Sure, sometimes they get stuff for free, but their success always comes with a cost. I told her she's only 12, she's still got all the time in the world to become something amazing, but that path isn't open to people who steal and lie. I even pointed out that her favorite singer, Ariana Grande, had just had to apologize recently for something she did, and now it's forgotten. It wasn't the end of the world. People make mistakes, but you have to fix them. My older sister and Bill struck a deal with her: if she gets a 3.5 average in her first year of high school, which shouldn't be too hard, since it's not even an academic school, then after I finish my she can come live with me and, eventually, join them. My sister even showed her printouts of the house they hope to buy so we could all live there together. They've got 3 dogs and way more freedom than we do in our current house. The cop explained to my little sister that not everybody gets a chance to fix things. He gestured to his poster board and asked her if she wanted to end up like those girls. My sister was still crying, but eventually she came over to me, hugged me, and apologized. No excuses, just "I'm sorry." That was enough for me. After that, my cousin and the officer left, handing us a referral for help. But my Bill has colleagues he trusts more, so he's going to talk to them instead. At least we've got some options for people my little sister can talk to without feeling judged. Later, I texted my boyfriend and asked him to take her to the Army HQS this weekend. I didn't want her feeling too overwhelmed after everything that happened. Update 4. My boyfriend took my sister to the Canadian Forces recruiting office on Saturday, and I was expecting her to come home rolling her eyes. She came back standing straighter than I've ever seen her, clutching 2 pamphlets and an application for Army cadets with a sticky note on it that said "Wednesday parade, night come try." Apparently a female sergeant had clocked immediately that my sister was the sort of kid who loves the idea of aesthetic discipline but has never actually met 6 and ma. On purpose, and she gave her the blunt version of what joining would be like. Uniforms you have to iron. Boots you polish until you can see your own guilt in them. Phone in a locker during training. Summer camps you have to iron. My sister told me, very solemnly, that she was ready to be yelled at for the greater good, and then asked if I own an iron. On Monday we went to the shelter to talk about volunteering. The coordinator didn't sugarcoat a thing. She stuck my sister in a back room with a teenage volunteer in rubber boots and handed them a bucket. My sister cleaned kennels, caught her hoodie sleeve mouthed by a hound, and came out with a scratch on her wrist and hair that smelled like bleach and wet dog. She didn't complain. She sat on the curb after and hand-fed kibble to a terrified 3-legged cat named Beans until the cat decided she could exist near people again. When we got in the car, she just said, "Not everything can be fixed with glitter." That night, my brother-in-law came over with an external hard drive and set the desktop to cough up whatever it still had from the "everything is mysteriously gone" day. He is very calm when he's doing complicated things, which made it worse somehow. He pulled the Windows old folder back, and sitting there like it had been left for us were her Google searches from that morning. "How to wipe a computer so your parents don't know what you bought" was the exact wording. There were also autofill entries with my name and the last 4 digits of my card, and a photo in the recycle bin of the front and back of my MasterCard taken on our kitchen table, next to one of those cereal bowls we only ever use when we're in a rush. It had been deleted, but not actually gone. I didn't yell. I printed it and slid it across the table. She looked at the photo, hid her face in her hoodie sleeve, and then told the whole story in one breathy, hiccuping run on that sounded exactly like the age she is. She took the picture weeks ago while I was at work because she thought you needed a backup when the Amazon app forgot cards, which She's not wrong, she's just wrong. She wiped the computer because a girl she hangs around with at school told her it would erase the footprints. That girl has an older brother who, according to my sister, knows everything about computers and told her browsers keep secret lists. She didn't give him my card number, but she has been sending screenshots of her hauls to a group chat to prove she wasn't lying about what she owned. Sometimes she ordered things because girls in the chat said we're all getting this for the sleepover and she didn't want to be the only one who didn't have it when they did the TikTok. I called Amazon again, this time with the photo in the timeline and the fact that she is 12 and used my card without consent. They locked her account and flagged every address associated with it. 3 marketplace sellers agreed to take unopened items back once we paid the return shipping. 2 flat out refused and sent me passive-aggressive smiley faces about policy, so that money is gone. Origin responded and reversed a couple of the same charges with a stern note about unauthorized minors and parental controls. Netflix finally emailed and canceled the account, no refund, lesson learned. I swapped my card, turned on 2-step for anything that can hold money, and put my new details in my sock drawer because if I can't trust my own sock drawer, then there is actually no point. We also wrote her all down. Not in a "you're a criminal" way, in a "we live with the truth now" way. She owes me the outstanding amount that didn't get reversed or returned. Obviously she doesn't have $700. So she and I sat at the kitchen table and did math she hated and scheduled it like a bill. Half her allowance, babysitting money when neighbors ask, a chunk from selling a couple of the things she bought that are still in sealed boxes. We walked to the post office together this morning with a stack of returns and I watched her hand them over and sign. On the way back she told me she doesn't like that her stomach flips every time we pass a mailbox now. I told her I think that's what a conscience feels like when it's finally awake. It hasn't been a montage. Yesterday, I got a text from Apple about a sign and attempt from our city on a device I didn't recognize. I went straight to her room. She was already sitting on the edge of her bed holding the old iPod I gave her when she was 9, like it was something hot. I wanted to listen to your playlists, she said, which is technically true and beside the point. She gave me the iPod and then asked, very quietly, if we could make her a playlist that isn't just other people's songs. She also asked if I would teach her how to budget because whatever that is, I need one. She went to the cadet info night tonight. My boyfriend dropped her and waited in the parking lot, and when they came back she had a sheet of drill commands and a uniform sizing form and the kind of light in her eyes kids get when someone finally told them exactly what's expected of them and didn't giggle when they messed up. The officer in charge told her to bring running shoes and a hair elastic next week and asked her if she had a problem being in and on time. She said no, ma'am, and then whispered I actually do to me in the hall and we both laughed, which felt like a miracle. My parents found out about the cadets in the shelter because she left a consent form on the counter. Dad did as usual, they are going to put a chip in you stand-up routine, and then lectured me about the police being a psyops. I told him I swapped my locks because I did buy a lock for my room and that if he wanted the dog during the day, he could knock like a human. I flipped the lock hardware so the dog can still push the door open when he needs to get to the backyard. Dad grumbled and went outside to smoke his all-natural cigarettes and came back in with a wild theory about the mail carrier, and I ignored him. Mom signed the forms because my sister actually asked her, and that seems to be the magic trick around here, we get more cooperation when we stop waiting for it. The first counseling appointment is set for next week with one of my brother-in-law's colleagues. It's an intake, not a crystal ball, but I'm relieved there's a time and a place and a professional we trust. In the meantime, all screens moved out of bedrooms. It was a bigger deal than I expected to move a TV 6 steps down the hall, but apparently seeing it every night was like having a mini-mall glowing at her until she fell asleep. Tonight, she came home from the shelter with a Polaroid of beans tucked into the sleeve of her hoodie and slid it under the edge of her vanity mirror, right across the collage of filtered faces she's been trying to copy for 2 years. She told me she wants to keep B's picture there so I don't forget that real things are better sometimes. She also gave me a folded piece of paper that said, in her handwriting, I know it takes time to fix a lie, and underneath that she'd written the dates of the returns and the exact amount she paid me so far. It is not done. I still have an account alerting me every time a login happens, anywhere, like I'm the NSA, and she still asks for things I say no to and looks like I've hit her with an encyclopedia. But there are also rubber boots drying by the back door, a drill sheet on the fridge, and my credit card is in my sock drawer where it belongs. That feels like new. I'll take new. Update 5. The counselor's office had salt lamps and a clock that didn't tick, which felt like a small mercy. My sister sat on her hands so she wouldn't pick at her sleeves and told the intake nurse that she wasn't here to be psychoanalyzed, which made my brother-in-law's colleague smile in a way that took the sting out. He asked her what she wanted to get out of it, and she said, very clearly, I want my brain to stop doing that thing where it wants things. He drew 2 circles on a whiteboard and labeled them wanting and getting, then put a triangle in between and called it waiting on purpose. He told her most people try to build a bridge with duct tape and panic. Then he gave her this ridiculous little kitchen timer in the shape of a tomato and said the deal for the week was that nothing got bought or even added to a wish list unless it sat in waiting on purpose for 48 hours without making her itchy. She stuck the tomato in her hoodie pocket like it was stolen contraband and then, on the way to the car, asked if we could stop for a pack of sticky notes to mark her no-buy calendar. I said no and she laughed and tapped the tomato. She burned a circle into one of my pillowcases the night before cadets because she didn't know irons lied about their heat settings. Polyester absolutely lies. We watched a video on YouTube of a woman in a perfect bun explaining steam versus press, and after 10 minutes my sister took the iron like a sword and said I will tame you. The shirt still has a wrinkled placket, but she figured out hems, and when she walked into the armory Wednesday with her hair in a regulation bun I didn't do by myself, her jaw set in a way I recognized from before orchestra exams. They did laps. She got side stitches. A corporal snapped his fingers in a way that would make me furious coming from anyone else, and she smiled like someone had finally found the exact place to put a fence. When they dismissed, she had blisters on both heels and asked if we could stop at Shoppers on the way home for blister pads and black kiwi, not the liquid, the tin, as if she's been polishing boots since birth. At the shelter, Beans got adopted by a woman in a cardigan with little embroidered lemons. My sister cried the kind of tears she tried to hide behind the stainless steel sink, and then she wiped her face with a paper towel and helped the new owner buckle Beans, who is still bees in our kitchen, into a carrier with a blanket we'd rubbed with her hoodie earlier. On the ride home she was quiet, then asked if she could foster the next cat on paper in my heart, which I understood and approved like I have any business being the person who approves hearts. They've put her with the hard dogs now, the ones who pace and do that whisper growl when you put a hand near their bowls. She has scratches on her wrist in different stages of healing and a way of standing that looks like someone taught her where all her edges are and she decided to keep them. The group chat at school decided she was a folktale. Somebody's cousin heard about the police visit and it inflated like a cartoon. She was called a snitch in a font that makes everything look fun. One girl posted a screenshot of my sister's Amazon orders, the one she had sent herself, back when it was about proving she deserved to be in the chat, and added lol where's her mall now, which is so stupid it physically hurts. She put her phone face down like it was hissing and told me she could handle it, which is how I knew she couldn't. We sent the counselor screenshots. He called the school, the vice principal emailed me an invitation to a restorative circle I had to read 3 times to believe. We went. They sat them all in a room with tissue boxes and a guidance counselor who looked 12 and too soft for this, and one of the girls started sobbing immediately. My sister didn't cry. She took a deep breath and told the truth out loud in front of the kids she's been curating a person for since grade 5. She said she stole and she lied and she hates how much she liked when people believed she had things she didn't. The guidance counselor said thank you for your courage, and it didn't make me roll my eyes the way that phrase usually does. 2 girls apologized. One did and didn't. The one who didn't is the one with a brother. Later, out in the parking lot, their mom asked if the cop thing was really necessary, and my sister stood up for herself and said, as politely as someone with chewed cuticles can, that not being scared of consequences got her here in the first place. We got in the car and she shook all the way home like her bones were a bell someone finally struck. A mystery box showed up on the porch on Friday with glitter printing and the words free trial in a font clinically engineered to bypass common sense. I didn't order it. My sister didn't order it today. She did last month, when just pay shipping sounded honest enough. The fine print says your free mascara comes with a $60 monthly membership to a club that doesn't actually exist in real life. I made her open it and take everything out onto the table, and we read the terms until her face fell off her skull. She called the number. The woman on the other end did the cheerful cancel carrot thing. If you just stay on for 3 more months, we can't offer you, and my sister cut in with I'm 12, and I used my sister's card without permission, which is an instant kill shot for all fake customer service. They canceled. She put the free mascara in the donations bin at the shelter and wrote for adoption day on a post-it and stuck it to the box like she was tagging evidence. We had a Saturday morning sale in the police station parking lot because that's where my boyfriend says is safest to meet strangers from the internet who want your poorly thought out purchases for half what you paid 3 weeks ago. She sold a brand new ring light to a girl going into cosmetology and handed me the cash like it was hot. She'd made a bill of sale with bubble letters and a spot for warranty none, and she made the girl write her name so she couldn't later say the light didn't have a stand. My sister learned that the hard way with a hamster when she was 8, and the neighbor kid claimed he bought just the cage. On the way home she counted the 20s and said I like when the money goes in the other direction, which made me laugh so hard I had to pull over, And then we cried a little too, because laughing has started to feel like a trick we forgot the steps to and just remembered together. My dad found out about the counseling appointment because my sister left a doodle of the ravioli tomato timer on the grocery list. He cornered me in the mudroom and told me talk therapy is a pharmaceutical pipeline, which is a phrase I'm going to have to scrape out of my skull with a spoon someday. He told my sister Army cadets were a grooming project for the war machine. She told him politely that she could be groomed for punctuality and shine boots without committing to any wars, and then she put her bus fare in a change purse and left before he could build another theory out of string and vibes. When she came home she put her weekly schedule on the fridge with magnets shaped like vegetables, cadets, shelter, counselor, homework, beans adoption update date. It looks like a person, lives here. The counselor said we're going to call it a no by month. If something breaks, we fix it or borrow it. If there's a hole, we learn to thread an easel. I took her to the fabric store for seam tape and a thimble, and a lady with pins in her mouth taught my sister how to hem jeans so they don't look like a crime. We found a second-hand copy of the Tightwad Gazette on a shelf that smelled like old basements, and she has been reading it like it's a thriller. She asked me if we could make envelope budgets out of old dog treat boxes. We did. They're labeled with my label maker in all caps, det, bus, cadets, beans, and then, wedged between, joy, because the counselor said if you don't put joy on the list it will sneak in dress like groceries. Sunday night at 9 I got a fraud alert from my bank because someone tried to buy $500 worth of skins somewhere I had to Google. My stomach dropped, and that way it has started too, and I went straight to her room. She was sitting cross-legged on the floor threading a needle, which is not what people do when they are committing credit card crimes, but I asked anyway. Turned out the attempt came from a very old iPad she traded a pop at for last summer that still had my Apple ID signed in from before the dawn of regrettable choices. The iPad was in the bottom of her drawer. She handed it over without a fight. We wiped it like a baptism. I set up family sharing and asked to buy with my older sister as the organizer because I am good but I am not stupid. My little sister rolled her eyes and then asked if we could add the shelter's Amazon wishlist to the family and if asked to donate could be a thing. I told her I would rather manually enter 1 can of kitten milk every 2 weeks forever than go back to being a person who didn't check their bank app every morning like it's a weather report. The kid with a brother who knows computers messaged her late Tuesday and told her she was dead at school for telling adults. My sister typed 3 times and deleted it 3 times and then just wrote, "I'm tired of being another person's dare." He sent a photo of a keyboard with the letters yanked off and a caption about hackers don't need keys. She screenshotted it and blocked him, and we sent it to the vice principal. The next day that kid's mom called me and cried in the staff parking lot because she didn't know how long any of this had been going on. None of this makes me feel righteous, it just makes everything very, very ordinary in the worst possible way. On Wednesday, a woman at the shelter stopped my sister in the hallway and asked her if she'd consider speaking to a group of grade 7s doing a digital citizenship unit. My sister said she'd think about it. On the way home she asked me if telling other people her bad parts makes the bad parts smaller or bigger. I told her it depends how you tell it. She said she wants to tell it in a way where it's obvious she's doing all the parts you don't get a round of applause for. Then she got out the tomato timer, set it for 20 minutes, and did her math homework at the kitchen table without her phone touching her skin, like it was a bomb that might go off if she forgot. There is kiwi on a dishcloth in the sink and a damp sock on the radiator shaped like a question mark. There's a Polaroid of beans with her new mom pin, next to a crooked list of dates with tick marks where money moved from her hand to mine. If you open my sock drawer to check on my card, there is a neat stack of envelopes and, tucked into one, 2 bus passes and a note from her that says thank you for not making me into a story you tell to other people without me in the room. There's also a scorch mark on my pillowcase that is exactly the size of the space she seems to be taking up now, and for once I'm fine with it taking a while to fade.